Hello, welcome to my series, Wings Unveiled, Conversations with the Brown Butterflies. My name is Nil, and I am thrilled to be here today and introduce you to Pamela. She is joining us from British Columbia, ready to share her inspiring journey of resilience, growth, and self-discovery. Pamela, thank you for taking the time out to share your story with us.
Oh, thank you so much. I am so grateful for the invitation to be here to speak to your viewers and our audiences.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. All of us inspiring coaches have so much to share, and I'm just so happy to be able to do that. So thank you again for joining us. I always like to ask my guests the first question of, what brought you to doing what you are doing today? Is there a event that happened or a personal story or experience that so profoundly impacted you that you realized that, this is what I need to specialize in?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I always think that there's this turning point, and mine was about 2017. I was sitting with a business coach and we were just having a conversation, and she asked me, she kind of held up her phone and she goes, I know this much about you. Like, what's the rest of the story? Mm-hmm. And I'd lost my job in 2011. I'd been floundering because I became a life coach in a time when nobody really knew what a life coach was. And so I needed to explain what that meant. I needed to shift from being an employee for 40 years or more and into an entrepreneur. And I really was struggling on how to make all of that work. And this business coach, she looked at me and she asked me, what's the rest of the story? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I was in book publishing for 31 years. And when I lost my job, I just, was looking for what to do. So I was defaulting to the things that came easy to me. I'd been a web producer, I had been an editor, I had been, all the things. And I was shifting so fast that nobody could see me. Because one week I was a coach for empowering women. The next week I was being a business coach. Then my coach, well, you've never been in business. How can you be a business coach? So, all of these things tripped me up. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me and practically leapt across the couch at me and said, you were in book publishing for 31 years and nobody knows that? She knew my circle of friends and people and all the coaches that we hung around with. And I said, no, it's what I used to do. And she said, you don't do something for, half your life, more than half your life, and it not show up somewhere in your business. Then within a month, I was switching gears and really landing into the position that I now hold.
Wow. Isn't that something? I mean, we always say we learned from what we went through, and here, you were a life coach and you were searching, but nothing quite resonated. And then it took a coach to kind of, explore and get curious with you. And then you were like, oh my God, that's right. I am an expert in that. That's what I did.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, so you said 31 years. What was it exactly that you did for that?
I worked for book publishers.
Okay.
So I worked for two different publishers over my career, and I started when I was 22. So I basically grew up in book publishing and held positions from entry level as a production assistant to moving through marketing and working with authors and then becoming an executive assistant. And then as I was in that role, and I was in that role for 8 years, so you're really sitting at the top of the company, observing, watching, doing, right? It's usually the EA that is doing all the things, right? And so I learned what happened within a publishing company. And then they knew I was bored because I kept asking for more work. Mm-hmm. And so another shift in my story is that at the age of 40, we had this conversation, and they wanted to send me back I worked in Toronto at the time, and they wanted to send me to university to get a degree of some kind, to get a certification in something. And so I'm sitting there going like, what? And what the president's saying, well, you know, marketing, you could be a marketing manager. And the VP of finance and admin is sliding a piece of paper across the desk to me and says, or you could look at this thing called the internet. So remember, this was 1998. And I was like, I don't know anything about the internet. And he goes, yeah, our IT guy says you'd be the perfect person for this position. So we all went away. And then 5 minutes later, I walk into my boss's office, who was the president, asked if she had a minute. And she said, yes. And I said, so about me going to the U of T. And she goes, yeah. She goes, this looks serious. Like the door is closed. Like what's up? And I said, well, I actually dropped out of school at 16. So I only have my grade 10. And she was like, what the? You know what word followed that?
Right.
And she said, oh, she goes, well, then just go get your GED. And I don't know in other countries what they call it, but it's basically getting your high school diploma. And so I went off and did that. And then I became the web producer. So it was really interesting because from then on, she would say to her VPs, if you want to know how to manage your career, just go ask Pamela Lynch. She'll tell you.
Look at that.
So that was fun. And I did that for another 13 years. So,
wow.
You
really were prepared to step into what you're doing now. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I know you work with spiritual entrepreneurs. So I'm very curious to find out what the key benefit, a spiritual entrepreneur will have when they work with you.
Well, I coach them through becoming accomplished writers. So they learn how to really tap into the essence of who they are and what they're here to do through their writing, and then become published authors. Because there's something magical that happens when we take our body of work, our knowledge, and we are able to create a book with that, because it is not about selling the books. Right. It is about creating the book and creating the audience who is ready to receive the book, and have that really help you grow your business and have a thriving business. So it's about the back end, supporting the back end of your business, so you become the expert.
Wow. And from everything that you just said, I had the visual of you working in all these different departments. You know exactly how to help somebody step through all the steps that they're going to be needing, right?
Yeah. And it was really interesting that because I started my publishing company in 2008, late 2018, and then really, came forward in 2019 immediately with writing clients and a publishing client. And because I was aligned. And that's really what happens when we're writing a book. We need to write the book that we're born to write, right? That is in our highest good to bring to the world. And as I was doing that, I still had that doubt in the back of my mind, right? Like all my years, basically when I lost my job and then I stepped into my publishing company, there was 8 years of me becoming a coach. And in essence, what that meant was me understanding who I am and why I'm here. And trying all these different shoes on, it was all important.
Exactly.
For me to land where I did.
Yeah. And it's so amazing when we have landed and we can now look back and say, wow, it's amazing. This is why that happened and that happened. That was exactly what had to happen, as painful or uncomfortable as it might have been, to teach me the lessons it did so I can, thrive where I am today. Right.
Right. And I don't think we become great coaches if we haven't already done the work.
Exactly right.
Right. So we need to, I needed to do all the deep diving into ancient wisdom and, all the things, emotional intelligence. I did it all because that's what I needed to be thriving now and to help my clients thrive in their life and business.
Yeah. We have to not only talk the talk, we have to have walked it. or be walking consistently in it, I find.
Yeah.
So before I forget, I know I have posted your LinkedIn and your website and other things in the post down here. So be sure to, take a look at all of that. So you can definitely get a hold of Pamela. So in your observation, what would you say, Pamela, is the biggest change that you've seen over the last decade? Do you feel that people are now more open to the idea of getting coached? Whether it's like, oh, I have a problem. It's not, you're not getting coached because you have a problem. You're getting coached for so many other reasons. So do you feel like overall people are open to it?
Yeah, let me answer the first question first.
Mhm.
So the one thing that I think has shifted in the last 10 years specifically is awareness. We are way more aware of ourselves, that we're not living the life we want to live, and we're not living our authentic life. So we're not allowing ourselves to become who we were born to be, right? Who we came into this existence to be. And I absolutely feel that this is not work you can do on your own. It will take it, because we don't see our blind spots.
That's right.
We hear the chitter chatter that goes on, and it's so subconscious when we can either hear it, or it's at an even deeper level, it's subconscious,
Right.
and it needs someone else's awareness and expertise to be able to help you to see those blind spots,
Exactly.
to really be able to look at with honesty and integrity what's in our way.
Yeah. Like you said, sometimes people are not even aware, and it is our job as coaches to create that safe space, and ask the right questions and get curious. So, our clients can go, wait, let me think about that. I never thought about it, and they have these major ahas, and the answers were within them all along, right? They never took that time to figure it out. It's beautiful when it unfolds.
And that's what I love about coaching, is that you're helping your client to see themselves, not telling them anything, but opening up through the questioning and the probing, for them to come to the realization themselves, because the answers are within them, and it is way more impactful when it comes through them.
Absolutely. Yeah, because our clients know themselves best. We don't know them, right? So it's our jobs to ask the right questions so they can go inwards and go deep.
Yeah. And to encourage, inspire that.
Yeah. So I know you work with, you've worked with companies of all sizes. Do you think that moving forward that it should be a requirement that, people get coached?
I feel everyone can benefit from coaches, and they have for a really long time. When we look at sports and acting, so we look at the entertainment field, people have long had coaches, but in the business world, it hasn't been recognized. And so I wouldn't say that it would need to be mandated or a requirement, because when that happens, if it's in a company and there's resistance, particularly if there's resistance at the top of the company, it won't work. There has to be buy-in from the top leaders in the company, and then they need to coach their people about coaching. Right. Otherwise, it will fall flat, and everybody will be disgruntled, and it'll be just one more thing that people have to do in their positions within the company. But I think that the smart leaders and the smart companies are already being coached. It is way more widespread now than it was 10 years ago. And they recognize the value of having coaches on their team.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. So there are, as we both know, lots of coaches out there coaching, every other little niche. So how do you think you differentiate yourself from that crowd?
I think you nailed it when you said that there's niche markets. And I think the way I just differentiate myself is through being very narrow in my focus. So I have a very niche market. People know, the people who know me and the people who see me, they relate to me as a spiritual entrepreneur, and that I am a teacher of spiritual writing and publishing. I really believe that that transformation happens at the access to spirit. And so when I'm talking with someone, it is really about them coming in. My market is really niche, so I only publish books that and work with authors who are here to shift consciousness. You hear me say that? People hear me say that everywhere, that I'm here to help shift the consciousness to love, and I'm here to document the shift. And I do that through working with writers and publishing their books.
That is an amazing niche. And
if you have a golf book, I have friends.
Wow.
All right.
So the last question I want to ask is in two parts. Pamela, where you are today, talking about this journey that we have said that that you've been through. What would you look back and tell that younger version of Pamela? Anything, good.
Do not be worried about what other people think. Be you, because you are the people who people love. They don't love the person you're trying to be. We don't, I didn't know that at 16 when I left home and dropped out of school. I just did what I needed to do because I needed to do that. And I look back now and went, that is exactly what my higher self knew I had to do to be on my journey.
Wow.
Right. And so if I could have had that awareness then and know that everything is going to be all right.
Right.
Yeah. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Have that faith, listen to that inner voice. Right.
Yeah.
So you have learned and gained so much, and you are where you are today. But what would the older version of Pamela, like in 20 years, say?
20 years.
Today?
20 years, that older version of myself would be telling me today to have fun, to do the things that matter, which is the things that I know are good for me. Like drinking water and being in the water. Go play, go have fun. Yeah. Because the projects and the work and everything, it needs me to be connected to me. Right. Yeah.
Like they say, all work and no play, does not make Pamela fun, right? Or any of us. Yeah, exactly. So you are listening to your own advice, right? Like we were saying, we can't preach what we're not doing. And in order to continue on that spiritual awareness and journey, you need to be silent. You need to not be in the muck working, right? You need to be away, like you said, be in the water, feel your toes in the sand, right? And just be with yourself and be silent and hear what comes up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what is your most favorite thing to do? How far is the beach for you in Canada?
Right outside my back door. I am fortunate that I live in an apartment on the beach in the Okanagan, which is a beautiful resort town. It's an 80-mile long lake that's surrounded by mountains. So it's a valley. So it's called the Okanagan Valley. And it is a beautiful place to be.
Wow. It sounds beautiful.
Very spiritual place. There's vortexes that run through the valley. And so people show up here and they don't even know why they were called. Right. They just know I just heard that I had to be here. And fortunately, my parents retired out here from Vancouver. And so I got to raise my children here, and they had lovely childhood, and they're now grown boys, but grown young men. But it's right out my back door. And so it is every day I sit in the gratitude when I open up my curtains and go, I love living here. I'm so grateful.
That's so you
life
get the
that I live.
change of season too, I bet, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We get 4 distinct seasons, and well, spring, the end of we have a shorter winter here than the rest of Canada. So when I lived in Toronto, it was 6 months. Moved here, it's 3. If it's a really cold, long winter, it's 4 months.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
And we
most
get
people
hot,
think
hot
Canada
weather.
is like just cold, period, you know? But
No, we actually 2 hours south of where I live is a place called a Soyuz, and it's Canada's only desert. So
wow.
we have very dry, it's very dry and arid here. And the summers are 100 plus,
Mm,
which is really why everybody wants to live on the lake, because you can just walk out your back door and jump in the lake.
sounds
So that's one of my
amazing.
favorite things to do.
That sounds really amazing. Well, I want to thank you again, Pamela, for coming on and sharing. And to our listeners, I want to thank you for being part of this journey with us. Remember, each of us carries the potential for transformation within our hearts. I invite you to embrace your own journey, no matter where you are in your metamorphosis, with courage and self-compassion. I'm Nil, and I thank you for being part of our community. And until next time, keep soaring, brown butterfly.
Thank you.